And we're live for another positive talk. Hopefully, all of you all are having a great week. I know that I have been having a very productive week, so that's always good. And I'm super excited to be doing another live today. We got a couple more this week. Got some fun plans for this weekend as well. There we go. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Drummond?
Doing good. How are you?
Great, great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Busy day?
Yeah, just just a lot of you know, coaching. I did about 4 hours worth of coaching this morning, so it's been fun.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't realize that when it comes to coaching as well, it's like on the back end, there's stuff that coaches have to do afterwards and before. So
Yeah,
when it's 4 hours of like coaching face to face, it can be more on the back end as well.
yeah. Oh, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I will let you introduce yourself so people know who you are, and then we can jump into a conversation.
Sure. Well, I'm Jake Platt, my last name, and I have an Instagram handle, JRen. That's sort of my pen name. And yeah, I'm a mindset coach. I help people with health challenges, fitness challenges, predominantly people that are over the age of 40.
Yeah. I
So,
I think that it's really fun to like connect with other coaches, especially you've said you've been doing it for many, many years. So
yeah.
you've kind of seen some of the like trends and everything, the different, because life
Oh,
coaching
yeah.
hasn't always been as popular. It seems to be kind of skyrocketing now, but it's kind of the new trend, whereas before, very few people would hire a life coach, and very specific people were looking for someone with very specific like niche when it came to those
Right.
types of coachings.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, coaching is, growing up as a coach, even coaches need coaches, right? I
Yeah.
mean, in fact, that's what's inspired me to be a coach was a coach. So, I really think that what I look to do as a coach is actually teach people how to coach themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the most empowering piece.
Yeah. There, like, I went through like different certifications to become a coach myself. And it was very interesting that even as some of the coaches were going through the program, they had this like mindset of needing to find ways to keep clients with them forever. And
Right, right.
I was just like, no, like there's so many people in the world that need a coach. Like the
Yeah,
idea is to coach people to the point where they can kind of step away from you and come back to you later on down the road and be like, that stuff that you said really helped
yeah.
me like on all these different projects, not just the one that you originally helped them with.
Yeah, I mean that's so true, and I really look at a coach is sort of I help people through challenges, and so if I'm still coaching you and you're still going through a long challenge, I mean, then I have to start looking at that and go, okay, wait, I mean, at some point we've got to get ourselves through this challenge, right? Most challenges are unique in that they have just a time element to them, right? Whether you're mourning a loss or, or a breakup, or you're looking to just lose some weight, there's sort of an end in mind, right? And so when you reach that, you kind of go, okay, you're on your own, right? You got everything, right? So,
Yeah, I think that one thing, like when you said that a coach needs a coach as well, one of the things that I struggled with when I first started doing coaching was I share a lot on my social media platforms, whether it's my struggles that I deal with, whether it's the things that are still challenges that I'm going to have to overcome at some point. But I
right.
had a lot of people, they're like, why would you want to work with someone who's dealing with their own problems? And I'm like, I'm letting you in to see the journey that I am on to
Yeah,
get to these places. Like, no one out there has a perfect life. And you
yeah,
don't want to work with a coach who is like, I was born into a perfect life with the perfect circumstances and
yeah.
the ideal everything else. Because that person, like, you have to go through your own challenges to understand other people's journey as
That's
well.
true. That's true. And and that's as a coach, I coached at a high level, and and even then, you have struggles, and you have to, especially when you have people that are really dependent on you. And so it really forces you to have to be at your best. But even at your very, very best, you're still human. You still make mistakes. We're all fallible, right? And so it's just important to recognize that there's a human quality that comes with coaching. And it's like, yeah, I want to be able to have empathy for you, because I need to be able to see what you're seeing. How am I to do that if I don't have struggles of my own that I've gone through? And so, I've been through a couple of different, breakups and, business failures, and I've lost in coaching many times. So, you learn about resilience and how to bounce out of those things. And so, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We are not perfect.
Yeah. So I know that, like, as you go through and introduce social media into the world, I know that it's so much easier for us to compare ourselves to so many people. Before social media, we had Hollywood and our next door neighbor to compare ourselves to.
Right.
Now
Yeah, for
we've
sure.
got all the little TikTok people, everyone across YouTube, Instagram, and all the other social media
Yeah.
platforms. And I know that, like, fitness is one thing that is kind of really easy for us to compare ourselves to. And I know that you work in, like, the fitness field as well. So when it comes to clients that are kind of working with you and they see someone else doing something and they're like, you know what, it's this magic pill, it's this pre-workout here, and
Yeah.
all my life's worries and woes have gone away. How do you kind of navigate people to realize that everyone's journey is a little bit different?
Well, that's interesting because it's a perspective challenge, right? So a lot of people lack perspective. So if they don't have, really have three things that you're working on, knowledge, skills, and perspective. And so and you can kind of, perspective is, it kind of can be part of knowledge and skills, but gaining perspective is really, that's difficult, because a lot of times people have really latched onto these beliefs, and wherever they got them from, whether it was childhood or their family, or how they grew up. I mean, wherever they got them from, and so it's really hard to kind of sometimes have them dispel that belief, give them some new information. And then because if it's not an easy fix, if it's not something that's going to come easy to them, they're sort of like, they're immediately trying to find a way that they can get out of it, right? So they're looking for a failure somewhere. Show me a sign that I can, that I don't, that this isn't going to work for me, please, And, but yeah, a lot of times, as it's hard work, there's a lot of discipline that comes into being fit and being healthy. And, the best way to be healthy and fit is to just take away the choice. Like, don't give yourself a choice to not be, because it's in that decision making process of having to choose where you find your problems. But if you just have somewhat of an anthem or a mission that you live by that states, I'm going to be fit and strong and healthy, and that's just what is going to happen, because that's just what's going to happen, right? And so there's just nothing in there that's saying, yeah, well, if this happens, I won't do that, and if that happens, I won't do this, and you know what I mean? It's like, I don't make it part of the equation. Just
Yeah.
like I don't make it a part of the equation that I'm not going to sleep. It's like, no, I'm sleeping. Just like I don't make it a part of the equation that hey, I'm going to take a shower. No, I'm taking a shower, right? I'm going to be eating. All these things that we do that we really don't make decisions about, that we just do regularly. I look at staying healthy and fit as just being in that category. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah. And I think that it's definitely a perspective that you have to, like, introduce to yourself. Because I think that my biggest, like, mountain that I had to climb was stop attaching myself to other people when it came to, like, my goals. saying, well, if this person does this with me, then I'm going to be able to achieve this. If I am able to get my friend to go to the gym with me, then I will go to the gym.
Right, right, right.
I was sabotaging my own goals. But when it came to the idea of working out, I had to make it to where it's just like sleeping, it's just like eating,
Yeah,
something that I have to do to live a long, healthy life.
that's right.
If I want to make it into my later years and not be like crouched over with a bad back and like broken down, like
Right.
I have to know that that is a journey I have to start now, because a habit isn't something that you're just like, okay, I'm starting to age a little bit, I need to do something better with my life. It's something that, I mean, the things that you do now add up to whatever your future will be later as well.
No, absolutely. And it has to, like I said, the underlying, your underlying personal philosophy about life is really what dictates that, you know? And so, you know, you have to have like a personal constitution, like we are talking about, that you write out for yourself, or that you really truly believe in. And I think when you do that, things change, like things open up. You look at things differently, and instead of like looking at ways to not do something, you're always looking at ways to do it, right? And you're not avoiding anymore, because what are you going to avoid if it's something you've already made a decision about, right? So I think that what a lot of times we do as just like a human condition is we just simply lie to ourselves, you know, and then we believe that lie because we know that we're better when we're healthier and fit. We just know it. Like, I mean, it's not hard to sell that to people, right? I mean, everything changes. The grass is greener, sky is bluer, you're happier, you're more vibrant, you can pick your kids up, you can, you know, like you are just in a much better place in life. And the hard part for me is to get people to look into their future deeper, to see that, you know, besides the fact that I am going to be getting older, right? I need to be looking at what would that look like if things went sideways on me, right? And so for me, you know, if I have to battle cancer into the future, or some other condition, I would much rather battle it from a position of strength than a position of weakness, right? Because it gives me a better possibility of being able to defeat it. If I am just gonna wait that one fateful day that the doctor says, hey, by the way, you are now going to be dying in 6 months, right? You know, you're like, oh shit, okay, well, I guess I got 6 months to party some more, right? It's like you kind of like have to make that shift, you know, and so for me, it torments me, or it would, I guess a better word for it is, I would look at going into my later years, because I'm 53, I'll be 54 soon. And when I think about what's happened to certain people in my life that I love dearly, and they didn't take care of themselves, and when I see what happened to them later on in life, I mean, it is just, it really, I mean, it's terrorizing to think about, you know, like I just go, whoa, I don't want to live like that ever, you know, like, so I just say, you know, I'm going to take whatever assets I have right now, optimize them, and then I'm just going to just try to ride it out as far as I can, and as long as I can. I mean, you know, but again, you know, our underlying foundation of our lives is vulnerability. We are vulnerable, you know, and so if you don't embrace your vulnerability, then you're pretty much sweeping under the rug just how vulnerable you really actually are. And you just, you know, that time that you get sick or something happens to you, you're just going to be that much in a worse place. And so I always look at this and say, you know, this is embracing the unknown and the unknowable, right? This is looking into the future and saying, I don't know what's in front of me, but I want to be the best prepared I can in case I encounter some sort of hardship. And that to me is what it's all about. You know, this is a journey into a different age that I'm going to be going into. You know, I'm sure 60s are going to be, you know, a little bit more difficult than the 50s are. You know, like and then 70s, 80s, but I just tackle it the same way. I'm always looking out into the future, and I try to create this fictitious character out there of my future self. And I just say, hey, future self, I want you to be proud of me. I want you to say to me, you know what, you did the best you can. Thank you. The worst thing that I could ever have my future self tell me is, what the hell did you do? Why did you do that to me? You know, like, why would you do that to me? You knew better than that. Why didn't you do something when you know you could have, when you're younger, when you're stronger, when you have that, when you have those insights, it's hard to ignore them, And so I think everyone deep down inside has that,
Yeah.
but they sweep it under the rug, or they lie, or they just kind of ignore it, right? Because they're distracted, they're in the moment, they're so but yeah, I think for me it's definitely something I think about all the time.
Yeah, I think that the instant gratification has definitely been bumped up a lot with the way things kind of are run now with social media and everything. And I think that it's important. I always like when I'm talking about health, I like people to kind of think of it as like when you're thinking about money, like when you're thinking about retirement, like you can't start saving at the age of 50 and expect to retire at the age of 60. That's the
Right, right.
same thing with your body. Like you have
Yeah,
to, from the early, keep it going. And you never know. Along the way, you might run into something where maybe you run into an accident where you are now disabled in some way. You want to make sure, like you were saying with cancer, that you have prepared your body to put up a fight when it needs to.
yeah,
Whereas if you wait until that time when it comes to realize that that is something that's important, like
yeah.
that's a little too late at that moment. And if you prepare yourself along the journey, because our goal is that we get old and that we live to the point of where we can retire and not
Yeah,
have to do the hard work that we have to do all the way from when we start our first job until we can retire. But
right.
I've seen so many people where I'm just like, that instant gratification, yeah, it feels great. But that does, at the end of the day, that doesn't move you closer towards your goal. There's so many people,
Yeah,
like even when it comes to building a business on social media, no matter what type of business, no matter what type of following you're trying to collect, like it requires you to do work that's not so fun right now, but will pay off down the road.
right. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it, right? Because the investments you make now are a hedge against anything that could possibly happen to you later on down the road. And there's nothing scarier to me than being decrepit, right? I mean, to me, that is just, I mean, why live? Like what is there about that that's worth living? And so, I think that's what really drives me is, you know, more like it's, you have this one life to live, right? And everything always comes down to making decisions, and decisions, unfortunately, are just whether you have to make them or not. I mean, they're daunting. Some decisions are very daunting, and decisions throughout the day, every day, weekly, monthly, yearly, you're constantly making decisions. And so in that decision making, you always got choices you're making. And I put a post up today about this, was that, it's, you always got a choice between, picking hell or heaven, like, dark or light. I mean, you always have, our minds are dualistic. So we're always living in this constant, life, death, right? The past, future, and if you can capture the present, awesome, right? Because I mean, ultimately, that's what you're looking to always want to do is be in the present. But the decision making that you make, it's really easy for you to make decisions that are negative, because it's part of your threat detectors in your brain. Like, you're always going to be, I mean, that's an easy thing to do. I mean, you can be negative, it's because it doesn't require any effort, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to I'm going to just go along with this, like, all this negativity that's going on out there. I'm just going to be a part of it. Right. And you can feel that in you when you're tired, how easy it is to slip into negativity. And so I always say, when you are conscious and mindful of the decisions you're making, and you're sitting there, take a pause, and just take pauses instead of trying to answer things right away or decide right away, and think to yourself, what is a decision that is hell, and what's a decision that's heaven, right? Because we want the good things in life, and sometimes we think that getting the good things in life is kind of making easy decisions, and that sometimes isn't the easiest, that isn't the best way. Really what is I found to be the best is just always picking light over darkness, no matter what. I mean, if someone's mean to you, just shrug it off, try to diffuse it, try to think, what is it, maybe that person's got something going on inside them. Obviously they do, if they're really negative. So, don't take it on yourself, right? You don't have to take that negative energy on, and then you don't have to become that negative person that they are. It's like you have that choice. Like, you can say, I'm going to think differently. I'm going to go in this direction. And what I found, what happens over time, is that eventually you end up having like a spiritual awakening, where you become lighter, and you become less burdened by all the pain that's all around you. And we were going through COVID. We were talking earlier about why you started this whole podcast. Is because of COVID, and people were going through some difficult times, and by reaching out to them with positivity, it was helpful for them to get through these difficult times. And for me, it was like, yeah, we all are being inundated with that same sort of negative energy, whether it's coming from, the COVID restrictions, or, the news outlets, I mean, wherever it is, right? And you have a choice. I mean, you could take that energy on, and then, go and start, um, kind of a negative campaign about it, right? Which is, you could look at that, I guess, in two ways. Either it's positive or negative, I guess, but to take that negativity on, I think that's really tough, right? I mean, that's hard on your body. It's very stressful. And a lot of times people don't realize the level of stress that they're placing on their body when they go and do that, right? Whereas if you just pick, and I'm not saying you sweep things on a rug, you ignore things. I'm saying if you just pick a different perspective, one that's more focused on just truth and love, and you just kind of go into compassion and forgiveness and gratitude, and those sort of meaningful feeling states that we have, and you go into that and you make your decision out of that all the time, there's you automatically elevate yourself to a different level, and you'll feel it. Like, you'll feel different. Like, you'll smiling at strangers and saying hello, how are you, and really kind of like getting like really opening yourself up changes the whole world. Like, it's contagious, and people can see that and feel that. And I think that for me, I'd rather be a light in this darkness and try to shine as bright as I can, rather than to be part of the darkness, because I have a choice to do either one, and that's the choice I'm going to make. And wherever that leads, I don't care, because that's where my heart is telling me I got to go. And that's where I want to go. I don't like this negativity. I don't like this darkness. I don't like where people are going. I don't like the divisiveness. I don't like all of that. I think it's something that's really hard on people. And so the only way for me to counteract that is to be the way I am, and that's not to say, like we were talking about, we're fallible, right? We make mistakes. It's not to say I'm like that all the time. I mean, I have moments where I'm like, I get frustrated, I get angry, I have bad things that happen to me, and I overreact. I mean, I'm human, but I think the difference is, I feel like I'm resilient. I'm faster with my resilience, And I think resilience is a key to having people elevate themselves out of depression, out of, feeling anxiety, out of these things. If you can focus in on your resiliency, that is key, because you need to feel sometimes, you need to feel this anger and frustration if it's wrong,
Yeah.
so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, how do you use it once you have it? Where do you direct it? And then how do you rise above it?
Yeah.
That's the key.
I mean, when it comes to like the dark or the light, the human brain, like when I went to school to learn about all of this, I couldn't just be like, oh, positive thinking, great, negative
Right.
thinking, bad. I needed to know like a lot more than just that. So I studied like biopsychology and understanding like the brain and how it
Sure.
works. And when it comes to what our brain can take in, like there's so many things happening around us. Even sitting here in my room, there's so much happening around us that my brain is interpreting things around me like it knows there's a wall here because
Right.
it's been there. So it doesn't have to think that that wall is there anymore just
Mhm.
because it's already trained itself to know that there's something there.
Right.
But when it comes to positive and negative thinking, when you go out into the world and are exposed to the places and things and people that you've never come in contact with, if you've trained your brain to see the light, to see the positive, your brain finds that. But if you're
Yeah.
focused on the negative and the like bad things that are happening, that is what you will find. I always tell
Yeah.
people when it comes to dating people, if you go to a date looking for everything that's wrong with someone, you will
Yeah.
find it. We're all flawed. There's not a perfect
Yeah.
human being on this earth. So if you want to find my flaws, they're there. But if you look at someone and try to see the good, then you will find that. You will see opportunities if you allow your mind to create that habit. And it's not easy, especially if like you're trained to think with negative thoughts. When you start putting in that positive, it seems very foreign. It doesn't seem like real. It almost seems like you're like being funny or pretending a make believe world exists. But
Yeah.
as you start doing it on a daily basis, whether it's looking in the mirror and giving yourself a compliment, like you were saying, going out into the world and just smiling and waving and complimenting people, like you are creating a new reality for yourself. And
Yeah.
then your brain, because it can't comprehend everything that's happening, your brain will start picking out the things that match the thoughts you have in your head. And if you've got tons of good ones going around, then it's going to be like, oh, something else good. Another one there.
Yeah.
Here's another one. But of
Yeah.
course, like you said, you can't always have positive thoughts. That's because there are things that are different and don't go the way we plan. And it's okay to be frustrated with that. But if you've got that habit of positive thinking, when things go wrong, you're like, let's pivot and go back to our course that we were meant to be on. Whereas if you have trained your brain to see the negative, you're like, oh no, this mountain that I'll never be able to cross just fell into my path. What will I do? And it's just the importance of making those switches. And it's not like a light switch that you can turn on and off. Like it's something that you have to start putting into your daily like habits so that it starts to carry out through your entire day.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said about that, because there's I know there's like a big movement, to positive affirmations. Everyone needs to go out and do positive affirmations, and I have a different way of looking at that. For me, I look at I will look at life, or things, like, say there's an issue, like something comes up. um I will, and it bothers me, and what I will do is I'll actually go into that problem really deep, and I will keep asking myself a question. Okay, what if that did happen? Okay. And then I'll say, well, then what happens as a result of that? Okay, well, what if that happens? And what if that happens? And what if that happens? And I will still keep going, and I will go all the way down that until it becomes ridiculous, right? And then I'll say, well, that's absolutely absurd. That is never going to happen. I'm sorry, I got a noisy neighbor next to me. Wants to drive the car. But there's, there is a, there's a tendency, I think, for some of us that do positive, thinking stuff and everything to kind of sweep the negative under the rug. And sometimes I say, go into that negative too. Don't ignore the negative. What I'm saying is understand the negative, understand why it's there, tear it apart, tear it to shreds, like rip it all apart, put it all out in front of you and look at it. Is it realistic? And then 99.9% of the times it's not. And, and then you go, okay, what was I really worked up about? Right. And maybe it was because I had thought of some event in the past that like triggered it. Right. And you kind of go, well, that was because of this. That's what happened. That's why that event happened. But it doesn't mean that this one's going to happen because of that. Right. And so, it's like people go into dieting. They're like, oh, I already failed on one diet program. What is so different about yours? I'm probably going to fail that one too. It's like, well, no. I mean, it's like, they're totally different. Like, let's go into it. Let's see. Tell me everything about that diet plan, and I'll tell you everything about mine, and we'll compare them and see how they line up with each other. So I think that a lot of times, there's a lot to be said about, going into that negative, into that pain, into that anger, and really going deep into it and just shining a light on everything. Yeah. Rather than just going, you know what, I'm going to ignore it and I'm just going to go all right into the positive and I'm just going to focus here on positive. Okay, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm vibrant. All right, I'm a positive thinker, right? And so I think we kind of set ourselves up for failure when we do that.
Yeah, I think it's important to like examine both. Like,
totally.
Think about like a day in your life where it was just a phenomenal day. Like everything was great. Dissect that. Understand, like, did you get a lot of sleep the night before? What were the meals that you were doing? Did you work out at a certain time of day? Were there certain people around you that day? And then let's look at the opposite side and think of a day that just seems rotten, just sitting there and it's just horrible. What happened? Did you not get enough sleep? Did you not eat? Were you eating junk food that made your body suck? Did you sleep to the last minute, skip a shower, coffee, get stuck in traffic? All of those different types of things, if you dissect it and really understand it, because something that irritates the hell out of me, that might be something that you can just look at and go, that was no big deal. But for me personally, if I understand that that is something that can make one of my good days just go downhill, I can be like, okay, traffic, being late for work, instantly stress, anxiety. You know what? Let's make sure I get enough sleep and I wake up and leave 30 minutes before I have to. So even if there was traffic, it doesn't impact me in a negative way. And when you slowly make those types of adjustments, because I always tell people, because people come and say, well, I have anxiety, I have depression. And I'm like, and there are medications for those things that people can take. But you also have to make life changes around you, because I always told people, like, if you're surrounded by a negative environment or a negative person, taking a pill doesn't change that. Like,
there's also, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to that, like a lot of factors, and I think like you have to exhaust those first, and so for me, it's about, okay, how are you breathing? Are you breathing nice and deep and relaxed? Are you hyperventilating? Because hyperventilation changes the pH in your blood. It makes you acidic, and so there's and that can trip a bunch of things that can happen as a result of it. And then, but also foods have a tendency to do the same thing. Like if you have, were you drinking alcohol the night before? Were you having lots of sugar or processed foods? And like you had said, did you get enough water in your body? Like once you have exhausted sort of like all of the components that you have full control over, right? Which is, your basis of it's a homeostasis, right? It's a balance in your body, then you can start to say, okay, well, I've addressed all of those, I've worked out, that made me feel a bit better. But it went back to that. I've done all of these things, and I've done all of the management that I could do: meditation, yoga, relaxation exercises, water, good nutrition, all of that. And I've done it for a certain period of time, but it's still affecting me. Then I would say, okay, well then, maybe then you need to go see, a specialist, a doctor or something like that. Maybe you have something going on hormonally. Maybe you have something going on, chemically. Maybe there's, some trauma you're dealing with. Maybe it's something that's outside of the scope of what you can control, in your immediate control. So that's how I kind of try to get people to kind of look at their life, because, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Well, it could be that you are really focused in on that, and that you have allowed yourself to be a hammer and everything around you is a nail. And you are just out there trying to, like you were saying, it's like you're out there just trying to hammer in all the nails because your threat detector has gone wild, and that's depressing. That's saying that would cause a lot of anxiety if you're like that, and if, so if you have this underlying anger or resentment or frustration from something that's happened to you in the past, maybe that's what it is, and so, a lot of times we have a tendency, like you said, to look for an easy solution to things. And sometimes the solution is just a switch in perspective. Yeah. And that changes everything, and then that doesn't work. Well, then, maybe you do have a situation that you need to go get some help with, but I would exhaust everything first. Right.
I think that it's so important for people to realize, like, knowing yourself as much as possible. If you can focus on really getting to know you and just understanding yourself, it makes life so much easier. Because like, even what you were saying, like going through all those different things to understand, like, you have to do that often because our bodies change, the environment around us changes. And I think that it's important to realize, okay, what I was able to do at 30, different when I'm at 15. Don't beat yourself up because you're not a 30-year-old anymore. You aged. That's not a bad thing. But you have to, like, constantly recheck in with yourself and be like, okay. And the more you check in with yourself, the more you understand you. When doctors ask you things, you can be very much aware and say, something does not feel right. Like, all the things that have been in my control have not shifted, but something feels really wrong. And if you have exhausted going through, like you said, all the things that you have control over, that's when you are a lot more certain. And when doctors start giving you advice, you can come back with a little bit more of a, well, that doesn't really work for me. That's not really how it's ever worked for me. And then it's so much easier to kind of navigate, especially when life kind of puts something that blocks you from being able to do, like with the pandemic. There's a lot of things that we got cut off from that were our go-to. And one thing I noticed was there were some things in my life that I was using to numb the things that I needed to fix. Instead of fixing them and looking at them because it wasn't fun to look at sometimes, I was just like, you know what? Let's go hang out with friends after work instead of working on what I should be working on. But when the pandemic was like, you know what? Alone time for you. I got to reflect and really kind of deep dive into me. And the more I got to know me, the more authentic I could be. And the more I started to understand why I made decisions that I was making, why some of them were toxic and led me to places that I wasn't too happy with, and why some of them were like great choices that maybe cut out certain people or environments or work and put better things in place. Because it's important to realize that you have to live intentionally. Like, if you just let life happen to you, I guarantee you it's not going to take you to a place that at the end of the road you're going to be really happy with, because you have to intentionally take the turns and pivots that are necessary to make you happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people underestimate the impact that things can have on them, and so I see that a lot of times, like they they're like, I don't understand why I feel the way I feel. And it's like, well, it could be because you're not getting the nutrition that your body is craving for, right? And oh, that can't be it. I'm eating pretty good, and then I'll look at what they're eating. I'll be like, well, I mean, you, you I mean, so the frame of reference can be way off, and so what I find a lot of times is that when someone cleans up their diet and they get really good nutrition and really focus in on all the intangibles, good sleep, good hydration, taking good care of themselves, just really, really putting effort into, self-care, and their world just completely shifts 180 degrees, and their problems that they had start to just sort of fade away. And so we don't really, I think, understand just how powerful the things that we're putting into our body actually are, and so, when you're putting your, thoughts and negative thoughts into your body, when you're putting, toxins into your body through food or drinks or whatever, I mean, your body now, it's already trying to fight for its life. It's constantly fighting for its life. I mean, every single cell in your body is constantly trying to survive. It's fighting to survive. It has a will to live, and it's trying to survive. And so now you're bringing these things in, and you're giving your body a more stress to deal with. And so now it's like, oh, thank you so much. I'm already dealing with all this other stuff, and now you want to do that to me? Oh my God, thank you so much for that. Jeez, man, we were just going to a good place, but what's happening, right? And so then, so now you're dealing with that. And every time you have to deal with these stresses that you can actually control, you don't have to put that level of stress on your body, because it's stress that kills us, right? So when you don't have that, then you can say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to take all these stresses out of my life. Whatever they are, I'm just going to minimize them to like the lowest degree possible. When you do that, it's like your body's completely in a different place. Like your mind's in a different place. Everything functions at a different place, because it now is like, it doesn't have those battles behind the scenes that it's going through all the time. That war that it's on. It can settle down, and it can take all those extra resources, and it can elevate you and give you energy, really good, positive energy, and it can help heal you, and it can get you into a really good place. And I've always said that it's really like, that is the fountain of youth. Like, your fountain of youth is staring at you in the face all the time, and it is your ability to manage stress, you know? And so, if you can figure that out, then you're going to find yourself looking younger, feeling younger, I mean, I see people that are the same age as me, and they look like they got ran over by a truck, And it's like, well, why? Well, because they eat like shit. They're drinking a bunch of booze. They're stressed out. They don't get enough water. They don't get good sleep. They're on drugs. They're doing all these things. And it's like, well, dude, you were doing that when you're in 30s. You were doing that in your 40s. Now you're in 50s. You're still doing that? I mean, come on. You're going to do that in your 60s too? It's like, that is just not the life that is going to go into a good direction. I mean, it's just no way, And so at some point, and I'm not saying you can't. I mean, I'm not telling people, oh, don't enjoy your life sometimes, here and there. Go and have fun and celebrate and things like that, and have, do whatever you. I mean, that's fine, but it's this constant daily, had these bad habits that they're doing every day. They just wear you down. They just wear you down. And so to me, that's the first thing I try to help people with, is just gaining a perspective on how these things are destroying their life. And you can end them just simply in a moment's notice by just going, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. Then it's like, okay, well then, what are you dealing with then at that point? If you make the decision like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore, then what is it? Then what is the problem there at that point? The problem at that point is that you've wired all of this stuff into your body. You've wired it into your mind, you've wired it into your body, and these are called habits. And they aren't going anywhere. Like, they are going to be staring at you in the face, and that old self of yours is going to creep into your life every moment it can.
Yeah.
And so you have this unique opportunity to get out in front on that and just build yourself a new person, a new life with new habits. And it may take you a while, but eventually they'll become so powerful that they will overcome the old habits that you used to have. And that is a different trajectory of life. Now, if you've heard the butterfly effect, right? That, it's like, you want to talk about changing your life, do that, and you will see drastic changes in your life. I mean, you all of a sudden have things coming to you that you never thought were ever possible. You all of a sudden be doing things that you never thought were ever possible. And and I think people are scared of that. I think people are afraid of what they could possibly become. I think they are afraid of what their potential could be when they do that. And I think that is what holds people back. They've become very familiar with the person they are, and to break out of that familiarity is a really scary thing for them. It is. I mean, I think it's scary for anybody who's been that way for a long time, because who are you going to be if you do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are the possibilities? I mean, literally the possibilities become, like, it's mind-blowing what the possibilities could be if you do that.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really what I really find fascinating just about this type of work that we do.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, when it comes to creating that shift and change, don't realize that when you start kind of cutting the things that are like taking you down the wrong road out of your life, sometimes other things that we didn't realize will go with it. Sometimes relationships and friendships with people we have in our lives are kind of connected to us by our bad habits that we've created.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
if you've got friends that party all the time, and you're like, you know what, like, maybe once a month is a good like party for me, but
Yeah.
it's taking me down the wrong road. If you cut that, sometimes those people go with that, and that's not a bad thing. Yes, you're losing like a relationship that was standing there and was a part of your current environment, but
Right.
it's important to realize that if you hold on to that, sometimes that's holding on to the bad habit as well, because that is an influence that will probably bring you back to that party life very quickly, because it's hard to be surrounded by a certain type of person and not
Yeah.
allow it to impact you in the way that it was impacting you before you decided, hey, I'm going to make this shift.
Yeah.
And you got to let them go. A lot of times I've learned letting them go, not, you don't have to burn the bridge or tell them they're a horrible
Sure.
person, but moving forward and thriving, those people will start chasing you and want to know how you're doing it, and they will live by your example. Yes, some people will try to make you feel bad about making that change for yourself,
Yes.
but that's why coaches are great to have, because they're going to be your cheerleaders there. I always tell people life coaches are more like sports coaches than like a counselor or a psychiatrist or a therapist, because we're kind of there to help cheer you on with the habits that you're changing. And we're going to keep saying, you know what, keep practicing, keep doing it. You got this. Make sure you show up for yourself, because the game is this week. The game is this. Like, people need to realize that sometimes the friends that they have in this negative space, they're not going to cheer you on for you to leave them behind. That's not in their game.
Yeah. And I mean, the only thing you owe anyone is your inner truth to yourself, and that to me is the bottom line. I mean, as long as you are a truth seeker and you are following your inner truth, that's all that matters. I mean, if people don't love you for that, or they don't care about you for that, or they don't want to be around you for that, then so be it. But that's the hill I die on. And so for me, it's like, if you want to be around me, that's just how it's going to be. I mean, I'm not here to sugarcoat things and enable you to do things that are, you know, that I have to pay a price for. I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm just going to be like, no, this is not right. I'm going in this direction. This is the trail I'm blazing. And if you want to blaze a trail, blaze your own trail, but follow your inner truth. And if we're side by side, parallel, and we walk it together, great. But you know, I'm not going to compromise my integrity, my honor, who I am as a person, or anything, just to have you in my life. You know, like that to me isn't going to work. You know, and so you know, but I say that with compassion. I'm like, hey, you know, let's I can help you if you want to go in this direction and you're struggling, you know, let me help you. Go with me. I'll follow me. I'll help you along. You know, I want to help people, you know, because yeah, I feel like we're social. You know, we have a lot of different you know, I would say um selves. You know, we have this you know, this primal self, you know, like, you know, just, you know, the body self. We have our, you know, our ego. We have, you know, we have these different selves that we have, but we have a social conscious as well, you know, and we're all tied together. I mean, we're really all just one, you know. And
Yeah.
so I don't say it in a way where I'm going to be like, hey, you know, I'm cutting you out of my life. I say it as an invitation, you know. I say, look, you can come along. I'm not saying don't come along, but you won't be able to keep up. You won't be able to stay. You won't be able to go down the road I'm going down, because it's just not going to be where you're at. But you could come along with me anytime you're ready, you know? And so that's how I kind of look at it, you know? And I've got family members that are like this, and there's people that I've loved dearly that are just struggling, you know? And it doesn't matter, no matter what I say to them, no matter how I try to help them, it's just they're on their own road, you know, and they're family. So you know, it's not like a like somebody you can leave, you know, over there. I mean, it's somebody that you're going to be spending Thanksgiving with and Christmas with, and you know, having birthdays with, because they're, you know, they're part of your family. But you still, I think, can't compromise. You know, I think that is really the key to your life. You know, is find your inner strength, find your inner truth, you know, make a constitution out of it, and be like, this is where I stand.
Yeah.
This is the line in the sand, and this is where I am. And if you want to go down this road with me, you have to cross over that. You have to go, you know.
Yeah.
That's it, you know.
I always tell people, like, when it comes to our success, like, we are all on separate journeys, but like, if you think of like going through life as like life university, you're going to university with people to have a successful life. There are going to be people at that university that are majoring in different things than yourself. You can sit there and go to
Yeah,
university together, study together, keep each other like motivated to be successful at the university of life.
sure.
But at some point, someone who's a dentist is going to go to a different class than someone who is an engineer. That doesn't mean that they can't say, hey, cheering you on from over here, but we're
Right.
not going
Totally.
to go to class with them. I'm not going to
Yeah,
sit through a dentist class if I'm going to be an engineer. That's not my journey.
right.
But you can both go that way, come back, study, have lunch, whatever you need to do. Uh,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, like, we each will have a path. That doesn't mean that my way is the only way to be successful. That's why I always tell people, when it comes to coaches, when it comes to friends, be a little bit more picky. Like, it's okay if someone
Yeah.
doesn't really fit, because at the end of the day, we're all journeying and learning together. It's like when you first get to college, you all are freshmen, and you are all connected in the sense that you have never been to college before. You're a freshman. But then
Right.
as you kind of grow and go your own way, you start to form new friendships that are within your degree or within your social group. And yeah, it's great to like wave to the people that were your friends your freshman year, but it's not bad that you kind of went your way and they went theirs. And it's perfectly okay to kind of take those different journeys. It's not they're unsuccessful, I'm successful. There's many, many routes that we can all take to get there.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, and I think that, you know, I'm happy for anyone, no matter what. I mean, if they are doing what they truly want to do in life and they feel like that's what they want to do, that's their life mission, you know, and I don't need them to form to my standards. You know, it's like everyone's got different levels of standards, you know, and I just want them to follow their truth, like their inner truth. That's all I ever say is just be honest, you know, like be honest with yourself, be honest with me, be honest with the world, be honest, you know, like you don't have to try to be somebody you're not. You don't have to try to, you know, compromise yourself in order for you to be part of, you know, an in group or a part of this or whatever. Just be authentic, be genuine, be who you are, you know, and try not to be something that you're not, or try, you know, don't conform, you know, like try not to conform so much, right? Because it's that conformity is really the death of our spirit, you know, and I really think that's what I see so many people doing. You know, they're just conforming because they are so tribal and they need so much of the outside world to agree with them and to join with them, and they need to join with whatever is the popular, you know, whatever the popular thing is. And I'm just like, no, just is that part of your inner truth? If it is, fine, but that's all that matters, right? Like, what is it inside of you that's driving you personally? You know, like what is it? You know, and that to me is something that I've always battled with in my life. You know, just being around people who are like, well, Jake, you should go get a corporate job. You know, you got to go do this. You should go be a doctor. You know, because you know, I went to school. I was going to be a you know, a psychologist at one point. You know, I was going to be, you know, this guy at one point. I was going to be, you know, we all, you know, kind of dabbled in certain things, but then I landed on coaching. You know, oh, you're gonna be a coach? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a coach. I love coaching. You know, to me, it's like that's what I love. You know, and so, you know, I think that everyone finds what they want to do in their life. That's what mine is.
Yeah. And you have to find it and not allow people to convince you that you don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to look at other people in the same field and be like, well, I don't have that. I don't have this, but this person's successful and I don't have what they have. Because if you are constantly focusing on what other people have and what you don't, you're not using your tools that you're given to be successful. Like, we can't sit here and be like, well, my toolbox doesn't have any of those tools. Okay, open your toolbox and figure out which ones you've got that are going to get you to the goal that you want to get to.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you look at architecture, because that's what I went to college for, like, if all architects were the same, we wouldn't have the diverse buildings that exist in this world.
Right.
That doesn't make one building more right than the other. They all have flaws and they all have things that people admire about them. But it's important for us to realize that we're all unique individuals. And like you said, you have to live your truth. It doesn't help you so much to compare yourself to others. You can learn things from observing, but don't compare yourself to the point where you're tearing yourself down.
Right. 100%. You know, and I think I see that happening to people so much in life. You know, and you know, they're just trying to figure out how to fit in, and I think it stifles creativity. You know, I think that you know, we're creative beings. You know, we need to create, we need to build, we need to, you know, explore and discover. And so if we're not doing those things because we've conformed and we're holding ourselves back, you know, we become very small.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and you're just a moment away, you're just a perspective away from becoming bigger than life. You know, and so, you know, breaking out of that shell and just kind of, you know, it's a scary thing for people, but I think it's something that I'm hopeful that is, as people start seeing that there's so much pain in that eventually that helps lead them out of that darkness, you know?
Yeah. And to kind of wrap it around like the fitness aspect of yours, like when it comes to comparing ourselves to other people's bodies, I mean, there are ways to do things in a healthy way, and our bodies respond to things very differently. So we could be doing all the same workouts, and my body is going to adapt to those workouts differently. I can't hold a picture of someone's body and say, make me look like that. Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, like where my chest forms during like my workouts is going to be different than where someone else's chest
sure.
forms when they do
Absolutely.
things. And it's important for people to learn to love themselves along the journey.
Yeah.
That's a process, because if you have an exact idea image wise of what you want to look like, when you get to a point where your body is as healthy as it's going to be at that moment, and it doesn't look like that other body that you have been comparing yourself to from the very beginning, you're going to have a lot of trouble loving yourself for being exactly who you were supposed to be,
Yeah.
the best version of you. So I think that the more people that can kind of take that journey and realize that we're all different, we're all unique, we can set goals for ourselves, but you want to make sure they're healthy goals, mentally, physically, everything. Because if you set unrealistic goals, you're going to destroy your mental health. And also, you could really damage yourself, like when it comes to your physical health as well.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's so much to be said about that. I mean, we can talk another that alone, you know, but, you know, talking about fitness is just, you know, that's a rabbit hole that I can go down pretty deep. So, um, but yeah, I think that for the most part, it really comes down to being in love with yourself to the point where you fully accept where you're at, you know, and and you commit to a life of loving yourself, and it's through that that you will find everything you need to take care of yourself, the right type of workouts, the right type of food, the right type of nutrition, the right type of everything. But it really starts with embracing that first. You know,
Yeah.
sit down with yourself, wrap your arms around yourself, say how much you love yourself, that you're going to take care of yourself forever, that you are going to now be the captain of your own ship, and you're going to set sail into an unknown, into the unknown, you know. And I think that is really the key, is to really kind of wrap yourself around that, instead of, you know, just looking at things, um, you know, more of an extrinsic sort of way, you know, where it's like, oh, that's a goal, I want to look like that. You know, it's like, no, I mean, that's what happens is you just set yourself up for failure when you do that. You know, it's like you have to have a much bigger, larger, 30,000 foot high view of your life. You know, you have to be like, no, I'm going to just love myself, and I'm going to take care of this body, and I'm going to take care of everything in it. And through that, you by default automatically start pointing yourself and start attracting yourself towards the right direction to fulfill that destiny direction, you know. And so that to me is like that. So that's why for me, you know, working out is it's spiritual. You know, it's a spiritual thing. It's not something I do to, like, you know, look at my body and stuff like that. And you know, I use my body to inspire people to go work out and exercise, because I say this is what's possible. But I don't. But I'm not doing it to, you know, for the ego satisfaction. I'm doing it because to me it's a spiritualness that I have with myself. This is where I go to really, you know, love on myself and take care of myself. Even though I'm lifting weights, I'm working hard, and I'm sweating. To me, that's just how you go about doing it, you know. And I think that, you know, if you do it for any other reasons, yeah, I think eventually your ego will get in the way, you know, and it'll sabotage you, you know. And so,
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on here and doing this live. I see that we
yeah,
hit our hour. Uh, I know that you've got some things coming down the pipeline career-wise for you. If you wanted to kind of take that time to just kind of let people know what to
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah. So I just came up, I just have a course that I just made for people that are interested in wanting to get their health in order, their diet, nutrition. It's it's a discussion. I put together a very mini course. So it's about an hour and 10 minutes of me just talking about various topics at a high level, just getting, I think it's the beginning stages of being able to help people on their journey to getting really healthy. And I think whether you are, looking to lose weight or just get generally healthier, I think it's a good discussion. I think it's definitely something that would help out a lot of people, especially people I talk to. And it's in my profile link on my Instagram. So it's right now it's $79, and so it's a great gift, that you can give to people that might be struggling or going through a challenge. But I think it's the first step in going into the right direction and really kind of helping people go down that road, and then of course from there, if you needed personalized, sort of customized programs and stuff like that, I build those, as part of my main business, and then I coach people through them. So, and you can always reach out to me at revivemindset@gmail.com. I get so many DMs on my Instagram. I just can't promise people I'm going to be able to get to them all at one time, because I just, I just get a lot of them for some reason. But that's a good way to get a hold of me, is through my Gmail. And so, people can contact me anytime, and I'd love to help them out if they need some, anything. So.
Awesome. Well, once
Yeah.
again, thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank you for
being on
having me.
here. I definitely was looking forward to doing this, and I knew it was going to be a phenomenal live. So hopefully we can stay connected and
Absolutely. I hope
a
so.
little bit later down the road.
I would love that. That would be great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye-bye.